revealed. How my incredible journey of leaving home became a touching transformation at 62. Sarah Thompson held the worn leather journal tightly, her fingers trembling over her late father's gentle script. Each word resonated with unfulfilled dreams hijacked by duty, silenced by the weight of family. She had been the unwavering anchor for her children, dedicating her life to their needs while stifling her own aspirations. Now at 62, the intoxicating allure of a fresh start in Portland called to her. Its vibrant streets a stark contrast to her structured, predictable life in the suburbs of Chicago. Could she really step away from her family's South real estate legacy? Doubt clawed at her as she navigated through the bustling streets of Portland. Colors exploded in every direction. Towering murals smiled down at her, while the scent of fresh coffee mixed with the earthy aroma of rain-kissed asphalt. But lurking behind the dazzling facade was the gnawing reality she had yet to confront. Would she be taken seriously in a world that often dismissed women, especially older ones? As she stood outside architectural schools, eager for the possibility of learning and growing, Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach at the thought of being met with skepticism. Worry nagged at her. Had she completely gone off course in search of something she could never grasp? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her heart raced. Compelled to move past the academic doors that seemed to close because of her age, Sarah pushed through her fears. But with every rejection from the counselors, an aching guilt pooled in her chest. Would she somehow rob her children of the legacy she had devoted herself to cultivating? Their voices echoed in her mind, laden with concern, as they questioned her decision to abandon their world for the unknown. She longed to soothe their unease, but felt a rising urgency to honor not just her father's dreams but her own. Yet, how could she reconcile that ambition with the loyalty she felt towards her family? The pressure illuminated her internal struggle. Each session at the community workshop with Victor fueled her creative fire, yet deepened the fissures of unease. His laughter filled the room, but her thoughts darted back to her children, sitting on the couch back home. Their worried faces seared into her memory. In moments of involvement with the blueprint sketches, her resolve would flounder. Was she allowed to chase a life of fulfillment when familial loyalty tugged on her every thought? Standing on the edge of this decision left an unsettling burden on her conscience. Would she turn her back on years of devotion, risking her reputation as a mother in pursuit of self-actualization? A flash of uncertainty gripped her. What would she choose as she stared at the canvas of her future? A fulfilled artist or a dedicated mother? At the precipice of self-discovery, darkness loomed, promising transformation yet veiled in anguish. In the waning light of day, she contemplated her father's own battles, his concealed dreams, leaving her at a pivotal crossroads. As she prepared to confront her children about her heart's yearning, she couldn't shake the dread gripping her chest, and just like that, she teetered between the flickering hope of following her dreams and the weight of familial expectation, caught in the storm of her conflicting desires. Standing in front of the large window at the community workshop, Sarah stared blankly at the cloudy sky above Portland. The vibrant city had welcomed her with open arms. Yet she felt entangled in an internal conflict that threatened to stifle her burgeoning passion. As she traced the outlines of her latest architectural sketch, she caught glimpses of the two worlds she was trapped between: her aspirations and her obligations. Victor's voice broke through her thoughts. "Sarah? You're lost in thought again. What's on your mind?" His eyes gleamed with a warmth that always made her feel a little less alone. He had taken a genuine interest in her progress, often pushing her forward when she hesitated. "I'm just wondering if I'm allowed to take this path. How do you know when it's right to put yourself first?" The words tumbled out, heavy with the burden of disbelief that had amassed over decades. Victor leaned back against the table, crossing his arms. "You know, chasing your dreams doesn't mean you're abandoning your family. It means you're modeling passion for them. It's showing them that it's okay to want more out of life." A flicker of hope sparked within Sarah, momentarily pushing away the storm inside her. Could it be that simple? The thought of her children seeing her determination, rather than betrayal, offered a refreshing perspective. This idea, however, was still encased in layers of guilt. She found herself revisiting their conversations, her son Michael's voice echoing doubt, and her daughter Grace's concern written all over her face. As she sketched, the gray clouds broke, allowing beams of sunlight to illuminate the mixed media adorning the workshop walls. Suddenly inspired, Sarah grabbed different colors and began to layer them on her canvas. Each brushstroke became a catharsis, a release of the fear and hesitation that had plagued her. There was beauty in chaos, she realized, an authenticity to embracing her truth. With Victor offering gentle feedback, Sarah immersed herself in the flow of creation. It wasn't just about the physical act of painting. It was a symbolic reclamation of her identity. With every stroke, she pushed aside the mental chains formed by her self-doubt, creating a visual representation of not only her architectural designs, but also her journey toward fulfillment. However, just as she was swept away by inspiration, the tension from her familial ties tightened its grip. The momentary release of doubt was sidelined by a nagging thought: her family. What would they think of her newfound ambition? And the deeper question loomed. Could she truly succeed on her own terms, away from their expectations? In a sudden rush of defiance against her internal constraints, she decided it was time to confront her children directly, to articulate her dreams, to share her fears, and to enumerate her deep-seated aspirations. As she left the workshop that day, heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and dread, Sarah felt the thrill of her own courage begin to overshadow the gnawing fear that had held her captive. She stepped into the vibrant streets of Portland, each step resonating with the beginnings of self-empowerment. But the looming question remained. How would they react when she unveiled her intentions? The afternoon air buzzed with possibility, and Sarah could taste the bittersweet tang of courage intermingled with fear. Just ahead lay the confrontation that could either launch her into a new dawn, or throw her back into the shadows of self-doubt. It was a gamble on a life uncharted, but she was ready to roll the dice. The moment had arrived. Confronting her children about what her heart truly desired. Would they understand her journey or view it as a betrayal? As Sarah stepped into the cozy yet cluttered space of her home, a lingering sense of trepidation washed over her. The familiar scent of coffee and the cheerful chatter of her children filled the air, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within her. She caught a glimpse of Grace sitting at the kitchen table, her textbooks sprawled out amidst a colorful array of markers, each tool a testament to her daughter's creativity. Meanwhile, Michael lounged on the sofa, earbuds in, lost in whatever world music pulled him into. Amidst this warmth surged the uncertainty that had been her constant companion. How could she disrupt this comfort with her truths? What right did she have to throw her dreams into their everyday lives, potentially shattering their sense of stability? Yet, Sarah recognized this moment as pivotal, not just for her, but for them. "Hey guys," she called, willing her voice to be steady. They turned simultaneously, their expressions shifting from surprise to curiosity. It was the perfect opening, yet the weight of her intentions felt heavy on her shoulders. "Can we talk?" she asked, her heart thumping in her chest. They exchanged looks, a mix of concern and intrigue. With a nod from Grace, they pushed back their distractions, pulled closer, and gave Sarah the undivided attention she had longed for. Taking a deep breath, Sarah recalled Victor's words about modeling passion. "I want to share something important with you both. It's about me, about who I want to be." She fought the quiver in her voice, each syllable a commitment to her newfound resolve. Michael glanced at Grace, brows furrowed. "You okay, Mom? What's going on?" "I've been thinking about my life and my dreams, the things I've put on hold for so long. I want to pursue architecture seriously, and I want you to know that it's important for me." The admission hung in the air, laced with an urgency that both thrilled and terrified her. "Architecture? But didn't you give that up?" Grace questioned, her tone tinged with confusion rather than judgment. "I thought I had to. I wanted to support you both, but I want you to see that it's possible to chase what you love at any age. I don't want to dream quietly anymore," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength. It felt liberating to share, to breathe life into the vision she had long buried. Yet there it was, the flicker of doubt creeping back, waiting for validation from their reactions. At that moment, Michael's expression shifted from concern to curiosity. So you want to actually build stuff? Like designs and houses? Yes, exactly. Sarah's heart soared at the realization of how this conversation was shifting. I want to create spaces that inspire. I want to take my sketches and make them a reality. But I need your support. I need you to believe in me too. Grace leaned forward, her intellectual curiosity piqued. But what if it means less time together? What if you get busy? The concern sounded genuine. Sarah's heart ached at the prospect of separation. I understand that this might mean changes in our day-to-day, she replied softly, but I promise it doesn't mean I'm leaving you behind. I want us to grow together in this. It's not about choosing one life over another. It's about expanding the possibilities for all of us. Silence enveloped the room, their divided thoughts hanging heavily. Sarah felt the tide turning within her, a mix of hope and dread intensifying. Would they really understand? Or would this be the beginning of a rift she could never mend? Michael broke the silence first. You really mean this, don't you? His tone shifted from skepticism to sincerity. The realization that her family was grappling not only with her words, but with the implications of those words shook her. At that moment, she understood the weight of her ambition was also a burden they would share. As the conversation unfolded, Sarah felt a surge of determination, her mission crystallizing. To not only pursue her passion but to bring her children along on this unpredictable journey of growth. But as their discussion deepened, the reality set in. Each revelation prompted another question, another hesitation. Would she find the balance between aspiration and obligation? Or would this venture deepen the very conflicts she sought to overcome? And while they pondered her words, a new tension simmered beneath the surface. Sarah had touched the pulse of change, but what would it take to sustain it? With the weight of her dreams laid out before them, how would they navigate the crossroads together? The evening gradually deepened outside their kitchen window, casting soft shadows that danced playfully across the walls. Sarah felt the palpable silence, heavy yet charged with potential. Her children had retreated into a thoughtful quiet, their minds spinning with the implications of her revelation. It was a rare moment for Sarah, where contemplation took precedence over the chaos of daily life. The warmth that usually enveloped their home seemed to shift. A veil of unpredictability lay between her aspirations and their acceptance. Mom, Grace finally spoke, her voice steady yet earnest. If you really want to do this, what's your plan? How do you actually start? The directness of her daughter's question caught Sarah off guard. It was not just a question about logistics but a challenge to solidify her dreams into actionable steps. Well, I thought, she paused, allowing the weight of the moment to settle. I could look into evening classes. There are community colleges nearby that offer design programs. I would need to work on a portfolio, and I'd have to manage my time better. Somehow, the practical route felt more daunting than the dream itself. Would juggling school, home, and her dreams spiral into chaos? The shadows of doubt began to creep back. She took a deep breath, pushing against the tide of uncertainty. And I guess I'll need to start sketching again, really pouring myself into my ideas. What about money? Michael interjected, concern coloring his words. What if you don't get a job once you finish? What then? The mention of finances struck a chord within her. The very thought of investing money into her dreams was both invigorating and terrifying. I suppose I will need to save more intensively. Maybe take on additional freelance projects or prioritizing my current job. Every step will need to count. Grace and Michael shared glances layered with contemplation. And Sarah felt the weight of their unspoken fears. Would they see the potential within her risk, or would they perceive it solely as a gamble that could affect their family's stability? I want you to know that I'm doing this not just for me. I want our family to understand what it means to pursue what makes us feel alive. As she spoke, the urgency of their conversation morphed into a shared hope and invitation for both of her children to explore their individual aspirations as well. Their futures were intertwined in the ways they motivated and inspired each other. Right then, Sarah realized she was stepping into territory that required not just self-belief, but also vulnerability and openness, a real shift in family dynamics. Grace leaned closer on the table, Her curiosity piqued once again. Have you ever designed anything before? An electric thrill shot through Sarah as memories surfaced her childhood sketches, the intricate buildings she admired during family trips, and even passing moments where she sketched out her dream house during long meeting hours at work. Some just doodles and concepts. Nothing professional, but I crave the feeling of creation, she admitted. Then that's where you start, Michael said slowly, a newfound confidence seeping into his voice. If you bring it back to life, you can show us how creative you can be. Sarah felt an undeniable shift. Encouragement was blooming where she thought only doubt existed. The idea of harmonizing her ambitions with raising her children didn't seem as distant anymore. I love that idea. It'll be a journey, and maybe we can make it a shared experience. But alongside this emerging resolve, a deeper fear clutched at her heart. What if she burned out? Or what if her ambitions led to friction rather than unity? Yet she had to maintain faith, not only in herself but in their capacity for growth. The evening wore on as they exchanged tentative ideas about her possible designs, their laughter gradually filling the spaces between uncertainty and excitement. The conversation blossomed, easing the discomfort, and forging a semblance of solidarity, a family with the potential to evolve together. As they sat there, Sarah felt a spark of grittiness, the clamor of possibilities dancing in her heart. But a gnawing question lingered in the back of her mind. Where would the first step lead? And would pursuing her dreams ultimately create everlasting bonds or fracture existing ones? The first brushstroke of her journey awaited, and she wondered if they would take the same leap of faith alongside her, or retreat into the safety of their comfort zones. Tomorrow could provide clarity, or plunge her deeper into conflict. Now, it was time to face those uncharted waters head-on. Would she find the courage to take that first bold step? The morning dawned bright and unyielding, an invitation wrapped in golden light, and Sarah sensed its urgency. As the sun streamed through the window, illuminating the remnants of last night's discussions, she felt the layers of her aspirations pressing in on her, a cocoon of possibilities weighing on her spirit. She pulled out her sketchbook from a dusty shelf, an artifact of dreams long tucked away. The familiar texture under her fingers stirred a dormant excitement within her, mingling with the tang of trepidation. Today was not just another day in the life she'd crafted. It was the beginning of a transformation, a re-emergence of herself amid the roles she had embraced for so long. The blank page flared back at her, a canvas for her aspirations. What would she create? More importantly, what did those creations represent? She could envision vibrant patterns, elegant lines that wove through her imagination, yet felt rooted deeply in the comforting familiarity of home. As thoughts swirled, the weight of her family's anticipation shifted from pressure to motivation. Could they see her potential as clearly as she hoped? The thought sparked a fire. It was one thing to dream, but quite another to ignite that dream into something visible, a portfolio that spoke to her identity, her talents, and yes, even her vulnerabilities. After breakfast, Sarah set a plan in motion, sketching out her daily routine to incorporate drawing time alongside her responsibilities. This wasn't merely a strategy to manage busy family life, it was a declaration. She staggered her time into intricate blocks: school runs, freelance work, and precious slots, all dedicated to honing her craft. She knew there would be challenges. Deadlines loomed in her freelance world. Children required supervision. Meals had to be prepared, and energy had to be maintained. But she felt an empowering surge as she scribbled out potential ideas for her portfolio. Each title reflected her growing confidence, a fusion of past experiences and newfound insights. But as the clock ticked, her mind spiraled into uncertainty once again. What if her efforts didn't measure up? What if her sketches, filled with potential, fell flat? The fear of judgment mingled with self-doubt like a shadow at dusk, creeping closer each time she imagined unveiling her work. Determined to confront this looming wall, she grabbed her phone and texted Grace. "Can we go to that local artisan market this weekend? I want to check it out." The response arrived quickly, a mixture of enthusiasm and curiosity. "Absolutely. Are you bringing your sketchbook?" The invitation ignited another realization. Each interaction, each shared experience could strengthen their family bonds. If Grace and Michael understood the nuances of artistic creation, they might come to appreciate, even envy, her explorations. This was an unforeseen avenue, one she hadn't considered, a way to inspire her children while crafting her journey. When the day arrived, they walked together amid the stalls brimming with vibrant crafts and engaged artists. Sarah felt the pulse of creativity surrounding her, essential and raw. She watched her children immersed in the festival of artistry, each booth igniting potential conversations filled with appreciation and passion. Armed with her sketchbook, she began to sketch the surrounding textures and colors in real time, curating a collection that felt alive with shared laughter and joy sprinkled through her drawings. She was struck by the synchronicity of exploring her passions while inviting her children into that world. But as she captured fleeting moments, an unsettling thought slipped through the edges of her consciousness. What if in sharing this, she was opening Pandora's box of fears? If she began to truly thrive creatively, how would that shift the landscape of their family? Would her focus on her aspirations detract from their daily lives, or could it fuse them together in a new and exhilarating way? The day closed with a palpable shift in the air. As they returned home, her heart raced, a mingling of exhilaration and apprehension tinged with hope. Facing the blank canvas of her future, she was ready to embrace all that lay ahead, and yet she felt the undercurrents of change begin to ripple through their unit. The question lingered: could this be a foundation for unity, or a structure that might shake their familiar intimacy? In the night's quiet, she contemplated stepping forward on this new path. Would taking that leap lead them to an unexpected place of harmony, or splinter the fears she had always wanted to shield them from? Tomorrow, she would embark on this journey, but the moment of decision loomed closer. Would she fully embrace her desire to create, knowing it could redefine her family's essence? The following morning brought an unsettling blend of anticipation and trepidation. Sarah awoke with the sun filtering through her curtains, illuminating her sketchbook resting beside her like a vigilant companion. The ink smudges from the previous day remained fresh, each one a testament to a moment of inspiration, her thoughts captured in the fleeting light of creativity. Yet, beneath that palpable excitement, an undercurrent of self-doubt churned as she prepared breakfast for her family. Her mind retraced yesterday's steps. The vibrant artisan market had ignited something within her, but with it also came the specter of vulnerability. Creatively expressing herself meant exposing her essence not merely to the world, but to the very people she loved most. Would they see the sketches as mere hobbies, or would they recognize the depth of her aspirations? Today was the day she would present her work to Grace and Michael. It was a calculated move, and fraught with danger. She debated about revealing her portfolio to her family. What if they didn't understand, or worse, dismissed it as insignificant? She couldn't ignore the fluttering anxiety in her chest, but that flutter was also a reminder of the passion igniting her spirit. After breakfast, Sarah gathered her portfolio in a neat folder, a visible representation of her efforts. The pieces ranged from quick sketches of the market's stalls to more reflective drawings inspired by her family members. It was a microcosm of her world, and the prospect of sharing it both thrilled and terrified her. With a deep breath, she sent a group message to Grace and Michael. "Can we have a little family art session tonight? I have something I'd love to show you." The response came swiftly, filled with enthusiasm. "Can't wait. See you after dinner." The hours leading up to that evening felt interminable. Each task, folding laundry, assisting with homework, preparing dinner, seemed infused with a heightened sense of purpose. She wasn't just a mother managing household responsibilities. She was the artist ready to unveil her journey. As the evening arrived, Sarah's heart beat in rhythm with the excited chatter of her children. She created a cozy space in the living room, lighting a couple of candles, allowing their soft glow to amplify the intimate atmosphere. She felt oddly empowered, as if she were stepping onto a stage where her family would be her audience, but also her critics. "All right, everyone, gather around," she called, her voice revealing a mix of eagerness and nervousness. She unzipped her portfolio, revealing the collection of her creativity, a visual narrative of experiences, emotions, and aspirations. Each sketch depicted not only her artistic journey, but also the moments that colored her life as a mother, an artist, and a woman rediscovering herself. Michael stepped closer first, eyes wide with curiosity. Grace followed, her ever-supportive demeanor exuding warmth. As Sarah turned the pages, she shared the stories behind the sketches, the inspiration that fueled them, and the emotions intertwined in every line. Her voice steadied as she spoke, and the self-doubt that had previously invaded her thoughts began to fade under the glow of their attentive gazes. But as the last sketch was revealed, a silence settled in the room. A moment of contemplation wrapped around them, thick and stifling. Could her family recognize not only her talent, but also the significance of her journey? The pause stretched, and a jolt of anxiety shot through her. Had she miscalculated their reaction? Wow, Mom, Grace finally broke the silence. This is incredible. I didn't realize you felt this way about your art. The genuine surprise in her words hit Sarah with a wave of relief. Michael chimed in, a subtle admiration lacing his voice. Yeah, this stuff is awesome. I love how you captured our day at the market. Their compliments filled the air like the sweet scent of blooming flowers. Yet amid this praise, Sarah felt an uncertainty simmering beneath her triumph. Was this acceptance enough? Did they grasp the emotional weight of her desire to create and share? As they discussed each piece, Sarah felt the fear receding, replaced by a burgeoning sense of realization. Her journey was not solely about her pursuits but was interwoven into the fabric of their family story. This was an evolution not just for her, but for all of them, an expansion of their understanding of each other. Yet as feelings of confirmation enveloped her, another thought surfaced with the force of a tide. How would she ensure this newfound connection remained? As she exchanged thoughts and laughter with her family, she contemplated the fragility of this moment, and the commitment it required. Tomorrow would not merely return to the mundane. It would demand she actively nurture this budding unity. But what if the effort to evolve together posed unforeseen challenges? Would she risk losing the delicate balance they had created? The question loomed, an affirmation of both hope and the potential for upheaval. In that moment, the canvas stretched before her. Only time would tell what masterpiece they would create together. The morning sun spilled through the windows, bright and inviting, but Sarah felt a heaviness in its warmth. The night spent sharing her art with Grace and Michael had sparked a surge of connection. Yet it also left her questioning the depth of her commitment to this new creative path. Days had slipped by where she existed in a rhythm of routine. Now, she teetered on the precipice of change, and uncertainty whispered fears of inadequacy. Did I in the kitchen? She moved automatically, preparing breakfast as thoughts spiraled. She recalled her children's reactions, how they had validated her work, and shared their own dreamlike visions inspired by her sketches. Yet a nagging voice echoed, reminding her that but a flicker of acknowledgement didn't guarantee a sustained trajectory toward growth. Doubts crept in. Would they truly understand the sacrifices she was prepared to make? Would this newfound artistic expression become a source of division, rather than unity? As the day progressed, Sarah sought a sense of stability. She meticulously planned a schedule, sketching in the early morning hours before the family arose, packing her portfolio for spontaneous moments of inspiration, and designating time each week for a dedicated family art night. Yet, each plan brought a wave of panic. What if she couldn't uphold it? What if her art led to neglect in other areas of her life? The art studio down the street loomed in her mind, an enticing haven filled with the potential for growth. What started as mere curiosity now felt like a siren call. Attending a class would not just sharpen her techniques, it would reaffirm her commitment to redefine who she could become as an artist. But fear anchored her, pulling her back from the thought of stepping into that unfamiliar territory among strangers, revealing herself as a novice among seasoned creatives. During lunch, these thoughts consumed her, and she found it difficult to engage with Grace and Michael. As they recounted their day at school, she nodded along but felt an intruding sense of detachment. There, amidst laughter, she saw her children glowing with confidence, basking in the reality of their success. She wanted to mirror that confidence live in a space where creativity thrived, but the path remained obfuscated. In a moment of vulnerability, she leaned into the table, catching Grace's eye. What do you think it means to be a real artist? She asked, her voice softer than she intended. Grace paused, her brow furrowing in thought. To me, it's about making something that is true to yourself, no matter what others think. Sarah's heart tugged. How could she live that out? How could she ensure that the fear of judgment didn't stifle the echo of her daughter's wisdom? That evening, after dinner, Sarah returned to her sketchbook, immersing herself in the creative process. As she drew, the act of creation became a meditative rhythm, each stroke displacing anxieties lurking in her mind. She finally sketched scenes that reflected her dreams: a thriving studio filled with canvases, a supportive community of artists surrounding her, each one inspired by her journey, and her children beside her sharing in the same light. The sketch poured forth, a visual representation of her internal desires, and in that moment, she felt a sense of determination solidifying within her. It didn't matter if hesitation accompanied her pursuit. What mattered was the willingness to engage fully in each stroke, each moment committed to her growth. But just as she embraced that notion, her phone buzzed with a notification from the art studio. A message announcing an upcoming art showcase for local talent and emerging artists. Did growing her artistic credibility mean risking exposure? As she glanced at her drawing, a mix of excitement and dread coursed through her. The showcase could propel her forward or expose her vulnerabilities in a new light. She would have to confront those uncertainties head-on and decide. Did she step into this uncharted territory, facing whatever comes her way, or retreat into the safety of her familiar world? Her heart raced at the thought of both the possibilities and the risks. This single decision could ignite her journey, but was she truly ready to face the world as the artist she yearned to be? The clock ticked as she pondered her next move, leaving the question suspended in the air. What sacrifices would she have to make to transform a dream into her reality? The next morning arrived with a crispness that felt different, as if the world outside were waiting for her to take a step forward. Sarah woke early, the pre-dawn light creeping through the curtains like an uninvited guest. As she sat up, the message from the art studio loomed larger than it had the night before, an uncomfortable, pulsating reminder of the choice ahead. She slipped out of bed, careful not to wake anyone, and made her way to the kitchen. The sound of boiling water became a backdrop to her swirling thoughts. Would showcasing her art be a leap toward credibility or a descent into exposure? She could feel the tension within her, fear battling excitement, each vying for dominance. With a cup of tea in hand, she turned to her sketchbook. As she examined the pages filled with raw, unrefined sketches, she felt an emotional tug-of-war. The scenes depicted her dreams, yes, but they also screamed of vulnerability. They were part of her journey, an acknowledgement of a self not yet fully defined. Real artist, she reminded herself, grappling with her daughter's words, and the image began to transform in her mind. She began referencing her sketches, layering colors and integrating techniques she had just begun to explore. The brushstrokes, vibrant yet tentative, mirrored her internal struggle. Each stroke demanded commitment, a commitment she often withheld from herself. She wanted more than just the opportunity to showcase. She craved a platform to affirm her identity as an artist. Yet, respiratory dread loomed over rehearsed words of self-doubt. What if the most profound connection was missing? As she lost herself in her work, she began to see a pathway through the chaos of her thoughts. The act of painting felt like an unveiling, a shedding of her fears. She was not just creating art. She was depicting a piece of her story, her challenges woven together with aspiration. Yet another wave of uncertainty crashed over her. What if the local community viewed her as merely a hobbyist? Did she possess the skill and the courage to present herself among true artists? Lunch came too quickly, and as she gathered around the table with Grace and Michael, she felt a growing distance. While they chatted about school projects, Sarah's thoughts spiraled, caught in the web of partisan debate in her mind. She wanted to be part of their enthusiastic exchanges, but questions loomed larger than her appetite. "Mom." Grace's voice broke through her haze, pulling her focus. "You all right?" Sarah forced a smile, triggering a laugh from Michael, an unknowing ally in her shifting awareness. "I'm okay. Just thinking about some art ideas." Grace's interest peaked. "Are you going to go to that showcase?" Caught in the act of hesitation, Sarah sat back slightly, eyes searching the faces of her children for validation. "I'm thinking about it," she admitted, her voice unexpectedly steadier than expected. "What do you think will happen?" Grace pressed, her curiosity genuine. "It's hard to say. Maybe I'll share something that resonates, or maybe it'll just be..." She sighed, deflating slightly as she feared the remaining uncertainty. "Maybe it'll just be embarrassing." Michael leaned forward, his innocent yet perceptive nature shining through. But if it's real and it's you, maybe it'll be amazing. In that moment, a shift began to take place, and doubt began to unravel like threads from a worn fabric. Michael's optimism reinvigorated something within her, and she began to realize that the showcase wasn't merely an event. It was a potential pivotal moment, a crucible for her evolving identity as an artist and mother. Determined, she leaned forward, reclaiming the narrative. "You're right. Maybe I should just go for it." With her heart racing, Sarah acknowledged the intrinsic power of her children's faith in her. But was one decision enough to dismantle years of hesitation? The idea of stepping onto that stage brought forth images of both high stakes and deep reward. That evening, she stood in her makeshift studio, determinedly preparing her pieces for the showcase. As she arranged her portfolio, a sense of purpose swelled within her. The decision was made. She would confront this fear head-on. But with the distant echoes of self-doubt stirring, she couldn't shake the thought of what preparing would truly require from her. The canvas loomed large, echoing her internal conflict, but now excitement entangled with her trepidation. Each decision now felt monumental. How to present herself, what message to convey, how to embody the artist she aspired to become. As she finalized her pieces, the inner dialogue intensified. This was merely a prelude to another confrontation, a testament to the choices she believed she could navigate. Each moment shaped the importance of the journey, but beneath it all lay a deeper realization. Growth often demanded frailty before projecting strength. Would she rise to embrace the spotlight or retreat once again into the safety of obscurity? Time passed in which each stroke on canvas brought her closer to a resolution. Yet uncertainty clung to her. Her heart quickened again, a ripple of realization weaving through her thoughts. This night marked more than just the unveiling of her art, it signified the unveiling of herself. And as she prepared to step forward, a final question lingered in the air. Would she embrace the entire spectrum of vulnerability and authenticity required, or would she pull back just before the leap? The following day dawned bright and clear, a deceptive invitation for Sarah to step out into a world that still felt vast and uncharted. She stood at her easel, captivated by the vibrant colors spilling forth from her brush, yet simultaneously haunted by the prospect of the upcoming showcase. Each stroke felt decisive, yet uncertain. Each color a reflection of her soul laid bare. That morning, her reflections turned intense. What did it truly mean to share her art? It was not just about showing the world what she could create. It was about confronting herself. The canvas bore witness not only to her technical skills, but also to her emotional evolution. Was she painting an image of her past, an exploration of the present, or a map to her future? Determined, she leaned into the discomfort. Sarah recognized that this showcase could serve as a fertile ground for personal growth. With each completed piece, she felt fragments of her fears transforming into pride, and with that realization came clarity. The question was no longer whether she would participate, but rather how prepared she was to stand in her truth. As midday approached, Sarah took a moment away from her art, drawn to the warmth of the sun streaming through the window. She thought of Grace and Michael, their youthful confidence lighting up their conversations. They saw her not as a hobbyist, but as a creator whose authenticity resonated with the essence of being an artist. Their belief in her was a lifeline, a thread stitching her fragmented self back together. Yet doubt still crept in. What if she misrepresented herself? She pulled out her sketchbook and flipped through it, seeing a tapestry of her own insecurities entangled in her art. What themes emerged? Emotional turmoil, hidden strength, resilience in the face of uncertainty. Each sketch reminded her that 5 years ago, she barely allowed herself the time to embrace art. Now it was calling her name. Later that evening, she attended an art class that had long been a sanctuary for her self-discovery. The familiarity of the classroom felt inviting, yet now charged with a sense of heightened purpose. Art instructors and peers alike mingled, enjoying their camaraderie. And for the first time, Sarah noticed a recurring theme in conversations: vulnerability was celebrated. She felt a shift within. Perhaps there wasn't shame in admitting her struggles. Maybe that was the bridge that connected her to others. One by one, artists shared their journeys. They spoke of failures, of pieces that never saw the light, of times they had doubted their own voice yet persisted. And as they spoke, Sarah began to see glimpses of herself in their stories. Her own narrative was one of unraveling and reweaving threads of identity, through persistent creation. Why was it so daunting to share that with others? As she listened, she found strength in reconnecting with her truth. This was not just about art. It was about forging a connection with herself and the world. After the class, she lingered, hesitating near the door. Should she share her plans about the showcase? Would they support her? Taking a deep breath, she spoke up, articulating her intention. A wave of encouragement washed over her like a warm embrace, punctuated by shared smiles and approving nods. In that moment, Sarah realized that showcasing her art didn't mean stripping her identity bare for judgment. It could mean crafting an invitation for understanding, a pathway to connection, both with herself and with those around her. The preparations took on new meaning, infused with the potential for growth rather than the threat of exposure. As she returned home, her heart hummed with a newfound urgency. The notion of rising to the occasion no longer incited fear, it ignited a fire within her. She would not only present her art, she would share her narrative, embracing every imperfection along the way. But with the deadline looming closer, doubt still lingered in the back of her mind, whispering insidiously. Could she genuinely encapsulate her journey in her art, or would she falter at the last moment? There would be trials, unforeseen challenges, perhaps even confrontations with those who might not understand her. Yet the thought of retreating into silence was even more daunting than stepping into the spotlight. As she lay awake that night, a resolve began to surface. Perhaps this was not merely an opportunity to share art, but an essential confrontation with the psyche of who she had been and who she was becoming. It was one thing to confront the public. It was another to confront the person she faced each day in the mirror. What revelations awaited her when she stepped onto that stage? Would she confidently voice her story or retreat back to the shadows? As dawn broke, a new question nagged at her. In this moment of heightened vulnerability, would she finally uncover her voice, or was she still tethered to the doubts that had long kept her from soaring? As Sarah stood before the large window of her Portland apartment, sunlight shattered into a million fragments across her sketchbook, illuminating the pages filled with her journey. Today was the day she would showcase her art. This was not just an exhibition. It was a declaration of self, a testament to the growth she had fought so hard to achieve. With her portfolio in one hand and her heart pounding in her chest, she felt an exhilarating mix of excitement and anxiety. She reflected on her evolution from a mother who suffocated her dreams under layers of familial obligations to a determined artist ready to embrace her identity. Each piece in her portfolio represented a chapter in her life, etched not just with paint and pencil, but with resilience, vulnerability, and courage. Recalling the last family art session, she felt a wave of gratitude. Grace and Michael's responses had ignited a spark within her that she didn't know existed. Their laughter and encouragement had dismantled the walls she had built, allowing her to step into this new chapter of authenticity. This empowerment drove her forward. The memory of her children joyfully examining her sketches filled her heart with a fierce determination. They had not seen her dreams as a burden but rather as a bridge toward greater understanding of their own aspirations. As she prepared herself mentally, she found clarity in Victor's earlier words. Pursuing her dreams did not embody abandonment. It displayed a legacy of passion. Today, she would take the stage, not just for herself but as a beacon of hope for her children. Arriving at the art showcase venue, she stepped into the vibrant atmosphere buzzing with creativity. Artists mingled, sharing stories of their craft. Sarah marveled at the energy, her resolve firming with each passing moment. Setting up her section, she felt the mixture of eyes upon her, curious, probing, inquisitive. Yet instead of retreating, she offered a smile and a calming breath, embracing the tension. As she prepared her pieces for display, a wave of doubt occasionally washed over her. What if her art was dismissed? But each brushstroke she arranged represented not only her dreams, but her journey of rediscovery and growth. She positioned her sketches carefully, ensuring each piece spoke of her narrative. This was who she was now, vulnerable yet empowered. When the time came for her presentation, Sarah felt a flutter deep within. Gripping the podium, she drew in breath after deep breath, allowing the silence to support her like a tender breeze. She began speaking, sharing not just the technical aspects of her art, but the emotional tapestry behind each piece. She spoke of her struggles, her late-night sketches hovering under the weight of self-doubt, and her children's unexpected enthusiasm. As she illuminated her journey, she saw heads nodding, smiles forming in the crowd. She was connecting, sharing not only her art but her heartfelt story of transformation. Each moment turned her fear into strength, blending her aspirations with the realization that vulnerability was not a weakness. It was a source of greatest strength. By the end of her presentation, applause erupted, mingling with the elation swelling within her. She left the stage knowing she had not only showcased her artistic talent, but had also embraced the full tapestry of her existence. She had transformed before their eyes, proving to herself that her ambitions were indeed valid and worthy. In the days following the showcase, feedback poured in. Attendees connected with her pieces, sharing their interpretations, and even reaching out for collaborative projects. For the first time in years, Sarah felt not just validated but recognized as a competent creator. Her confidence surged. She was no longer simply a mother pursuing dreams in solitude, but an involved artist ready to celebrate her successes with her children by her side. As she reflected on her journey, her realization crystallized. She had conquered the inner battles, transformed her fears into strength, and demonstrated to her children the importance of pursuing passion. Sarah stood tall with solid confidence, her identity as an artist firmly established. She could finally embrace the knowledge that her art mattered, just as her voice mattered. This was not just a personal victory but a catalyst for familial evolution. With every sketch, she had not just created art. She had created a united front for her family, illustrating that it is never too late to chase after one's dreams. The future stretched out before her, an uncharted canvas, inviting her to paint her narrative boldly. Tomorrow would be a new day, full of fresh challenges, but Sarah was equipped with unwavering belief and the support of her children who had witnessed her evolution. This was her moment of triumph, the manifestation of her dreams, and the dawning realization that she could embrace her art fully while continuing to nurture her family. Join her on this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. And this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.